Do you remember much of the game, Goody?
I remember it all.
How does it?
I've got the memory of an elephant.
Very good memory.
How does it rate?
Very
One of the
good
best
memory.
pool games ever.
Yeah, it was up there as if that was a World Cup final tomorrow, we'd all sit back and go, what a final. You know, sometimes finals aren't the most entertaining games, and I'm going to say it was the best, lowest scoring game you've ever seen in terms of everything chucked at it. Okay, ball in play time wasn't huge, and you can come on to pure stats around it. It was a game that realistically suited South Africa, but the brutality, the physicality, like the boys from both teams, and you expect it from South Africa because that's their DNA, but the ferocity that the Irish boys were smashing the Saffers from minute one to the death, and every single player, looking at the stats, you know, you've got 38-year-old, 39, 46-year-old Johnny Sexton is the second top tackler in the game for Ireland with 11 tackles. Diolande runs over and through him after about 10 minutes. Most normal old fellas, your shoulders crumbled, you're walking off the field. Johnny, stay down for a little bit, gets up and just put in a shift. Every player was phenomenal. You know, Bundyaki out of this world. James Lowe, I've got a bloke next to me, good lad actually, at Flatman Square, and he's like, nah, I don't rate James Lowe. I'm telling you. He's a hell of a player. Like
Left foot's
foot,
massive,
tackling.
yeah.
He goes, yeah, but do you remember that time he had the fridge on his back when he was running back and Johnny May scored at Twickenham? I'm like, mate, that's about 4 years ago, pal.
Was that? Did he say
James Lowe.
that when Eben Etzebeth was in the air as well? Like you get some fans, don't rate James though. Yet he's picked up the biggest, baddest player on the pitch.
Yeah, and absolutely emptied him completely, didn't he? And also, you know, the pass for Matt Hansen's try. I can't emphasise enough how hard that skill is to chuck a 15, possibly 20 metre pass off your left hand under pressure, 3 metres out from the line or 5 metres out from the line, when you've got the box blitzing at you like that. Just to have that skill, he was phenomenal. So two-man Ireland were unbelievable. The crowd, as Jim will no doubt get onto, the atmosphere, and they talked about there was 30,000 Irish fans there. Well, it's an 80,000 seat stadium, isn't it? I reckon there was 78,000 Irish fans there by the end. Phenomenal. So yeah, intensity-wise, okay, Ireland had a couple of issues early on with line-outs and all that stuff, but they fixed their own issues, and the game suited the South African way of playing. And let's get onto it. The goal kicking, we talked about it on here before. Manie, unbelievable player, ball in hand, and we said it might cost them in big knockout games. And yes, that wasn't a knockout game, but it was the biggest of pool games for them after dusting off Scotland in round one, and you know they came up short. They're kicking less than 50% across the whole tournament so far, and that could be an Achilles heel.
Have you seen anything with Manie Libbok's technique, Goody, that you think he's falling down in particular? Because there's been a lot going around on social media about what he's doing wrong, how he's placing the ball. Have you noticed anything that he's doing that's obvious that he could fix?
Well, social media, everyone's an expert, aren't they? So last week everyone was an expert on fractured cheekbones. I had one, and I had one and played 4 days later, and I had one and played 6 weeks
Mate,
later.
Clive Woodward was convinced it was a jaw.
But yeah, listen, you know, every kicker has their own individual setup, their own individual process to go through. You know, Johnny Wilkinson sends messages to the ball. You've got to give that message to the ball, and the ball gives you a message back, apparently, or something like that. But Manie Libbok, the only thing I'd say, and without critiquing and actually going deep into his technique and ball placement and all that stuff, a load of kickers place the ball differently. But what he does is he misses a lot to the left, which means his shoulders are coming round, and he's not finishing square to the posts where you want the ball to go. So he's whipping around a bit of a C-shaped kick. But yeah, I mean, the only way as a kicker, what you don't want to do is listen to everyone's opinions about your kicking and your technique.
The thing.
You need to iron it out yourself with your goal kicking coach. And I go back to the great Dusty Hare, who was my mentor, legend of a bloke. Loose as you like as well, later in life, probably earlier in life as well. But you know, he was a brilliant coach because he didn't give you over detail. He didn't fill your brain with loads of stuff. And sometimes he's like, just fucking put it on tee and fucking whack it over. And it can be as simple as that. But if for Manie Lubbock, if you are analysing absolutely every inch of your technique, from your ball placement, your foot placement, your run up, how long you take, obviously you've got the shot clock on, what your point is in the stand that you're aiming at. Do you aim to the right of the posts? You've got to take in the wind, the underground conditions, all that stuff. You can absolutely mind fuck yourself if you go into over detail. So he's just got to get a groove and find a way with his goal kicking coach on the pitch, and then if not, just give it to Handre Pollard, who's back, because he can play hooker as well.
But you're right, the Achilles heel is that now. It's a thing they're going to have to address, because the week before they were defending it, and to leave 11 points out on the pitch, then South Africa would have won. Obviously, it doesn't work like that, does it? Ireland's line-out didn't function in the first half. If it did, it could have been more. But I actually went back and looked at the game because so much was happening, and
there weren't easy kicks as well.
Yeah, look at me. I'm about to say, I think they were. They were in front of the sticks.
There was one that he should have nudged.
The one
100%.
to the left. Yeah, the one that kind of bananaed round. Look, but it's the thing now, isn't it? Mentally, it must be. You can't hide away from the noise, and you're working on it. So I imagine Handre Pollard will come in. But the one thing for me, which I wonder whether there'll be a number of things that they'll obviously want to look at and assess. The hooker could potentially be one, albeit Dian Faree, I thought, played well when he came on. That not straight was fairly harsh. It weren't glaringly, obviously, not straight. The one thing for me, they took Sia Khaleesi off at 52 minutes. They were winning. Yeah. And Eben before that, two of your biggest players.
Was Khaleesi injured?
I don't think he was. So...
Did you have a word in his ear when you had a hug?
No.
Oh, Sia, thanks for hugging me for social media. Why did you come off?
It was just legend and legend. That was it. So they were the two big things that I picked out. Was obviously the kick, that as well. But my goodness me, again, looking at it back, you get a better perspective from the TV. Ireland were phenomenal, and in a high-pressure game for them, which it is, World Cup. Everyone's talking about Ireland. When it comes to a World Cup, they don't deliver. They've had two easy games. They dusted off Romania, dusted off Tonga. Oh, South Africa, this is the one. This is the one that they're going to struggle with, the world champions. Of course it was going to be close. But Andy Farrell, you listen to the press conference after, everything's mindset. And he's making that point time and time and time again. It's going to ebb and flow, to quote Andy Farrell, which it did. That game could have gone either way. And that's... If it is a replay of the final, potentially, we can get into that now. We know DuPont might be back for the quarters, however it unfolds. But that game could have gone either way. Like, I sent the lads a couple of clips that I thought, that's harsh against South. Not that I'm South African. I'm actually glad that Ireland won, because I think it gives us a better World Cup with Ireland pushing that hard. Hopefully not against Scotland, but you can see the inevitable coming. But... there was a few things in there, like the line-out drive at the end, for example. Ben O'Keefe.
Yeah, let's
brilliant.
Talk about that, because you've been sending us clips, and you've got a pretty strong opinion about it.
I sent you one with it.
What I'll say before Jim gets into that on Ben O'Keefe, and I don't say it that often about referees, I thought he had a good game.
Oh, not a great game.
Jim?
I thought he had a good.
I thought he had a good game. There was like that physicality and ferocity. There was no TV bunker. There was no the way they all kept legal in that. There was some questionable clear-outs at times, but he let the game flow. It wasn't about him at all. It was about two teams going hammer and tongs at him, which was great. But
no, it was just the last line out of the game. I thought it was harsh because South Africa were driving. They won the ball.
Negative.
No, I shouldn't be negative. I don't know why I am, but it was just
talk
something
us
that
through
I
the whole
picked out.
process, because there's a few things in that drive that you've got an issue with, and then what happened at the end as well.
Because it's taken away a little bit from Ireland. But okay, if I may. So South Africa win the ball. Dian Faree, good ball in. Ty Byrne gets himself in a position up the side, gets himself in the way. The maul goes down. Didn't change his mind, no, but he's swimming up the side. And the ball is available, but Ben O'Keefe's on the wrong side. He says play it. He might have said it once, might have said it twice. And as Cobus Reinach is about to play away, bang, blows a whistle, end of the game. It doesn't really matter because Ireland deserve to win the game, right? So I think we can all sit here and say that. But they're them little things where you talk about big decisions on the biggest stage in big games. And my point in me saying that is South Africa are just as good as Ireland, right? So you think about the things that they can fix. If they bring a Handre Pollard in, if they do a 6-2 bench instead of a 7-1 bench, if, buts and maybes, South Africa will be back, right? They're an unbelievable team. I mean, that was one of the most ferocious test matches I've ever seen in terms of physicality. They are both so evenly matched. And then it comes down, and I called Alan Gilpin out, sat with him watching the Wales-Australia game. Legend of a bloke, actually. And I was like, who is it? What's Bill doing? And Alan was like, no, it's not Bill. We're just letting him take the heat for it. It was me. So he's happy for me to put it on record. He 2 years ago said, yeah, it was me who made the decision around the seeding and stuff like that in hindsight. But you know, he's a quarter Welsh as well, so he wants to give them an easy path to the semis. He didn't say that. That was me. I was saying that to him. So make sure that bit's in there as well. But what a game. Look, undeniable, best pool game. It's one of the best games I've ever seen because I was there, and maybe because of the atmosphere and the energy. And that's the kind of rugby that I love to see.
The only thing on Ben O'Keefe that I will say about that last sort of collapse line-out drive, which obviously the South Africans are raging about.
Are they or not? Is it?
Yeah,
have they? Okay, I've not seen anything.
Not the Springboks, though, like South African fans, you mean?
Oh, are they? You fans? Okay.
Yeah, the fans. You got no fans. But they're going to miss the conversion anyway, so it's a good draw. Why being horrible? Sorry. Apologies. But as he's saying what he's saying, if you watch the clip back, Ben O'Keefe is like, use it. Where is it? Let's see it. And he goes round to the far side. And the way that Reinach falls, his arse and his back and his shoulders are blocking Ben O'Keefe's view to see the balls alive. And we get the view coming from this side where Ben O'Keefe has gone round the other side. And it looks like it's available. But he can only ref what he sees. So harsh, but, you know, it is what it is. And he ref what he saw and he didn't see the ball. And
Andrew picked Ireland to win the World Cup, and I did see, was it a tweet or was it on LinkedIn or it was on something where you mapped out the road to the final? You know what? I would say, having seen that, and because of it being South Africa who've been the best team, I'd say Ireland are favourites now.
Yeah. If they can get past the quarters.
Yeah, I know, I know we keep going, but that's what we do. I think deep rooted we're negative, but we're trying to put positive spins on everything.
Yeah, and here's the thing. You talk about quarterfinals. Andy Rowe's sitting there very quietly because the one team that's under the radar, everyone's talking about Ireland, France, South Africa. One team that's under, even England, a little bit.
Scotland.
New Zealand. Everyone's written them off for it, haven't they?
Mate, Ireland's the best case scenario for us. No one wants to come up against the Springboks and get beaten up in the quarterfinals. Come up against Ireland after they've had to string together games against Tonga, the Springboks, then Scotland, and all must-win games.
Yeah, they got this week off, boys. There we go.
Johnny Sexton's going to be limping into that quarterfinal.
If he plays against Scotland.
Mate.
Oh.
Of course he's going to play against
Scotland. I don't know. Might be interesting to see.
Do you reckon?
Scotland needs to win. Well, look, you know, Scotland need to win the game against Ireland and deny Ireland Ireland a bonus point, right? So I don't know. Gosh, it's going to be. I feel for us. Like we're basically. Alan. Mate, we're out before the tournament's even started, mate. One game in and we're out. We're not out. There's still hope. Someone's giving loads to me at the airport. They're asking me about it, and I was like, "Look, it's going to be difficult." He's like, "I knew you'd say that. I knew you'd say that." I said, "Well, why fucking come up to me and ask then?" It's going to be easy. Sorry, no. I've watched Ireland, South Africa. It's actually going to be really easy for Scotland to get out of this pool, mate. What the hell?
Idiots.
He was hungover. I think he was hanging his. Yeah, he weren't in best fettle.
You mentioned Andre Pollard. Is he the starting 10 if you're the Springboks coach heading into the quarterfinals?
I don't think so. I don't. I think Manie Lebock has been so good. I mean, what's Andre Pollard played? 20 minutes for Leicester? Or longer?
Yeah, it was a big one, though. 25 minutes against Sale away on a Friday night.
Didn't see it. Did you see it? You probably did, Andrew, actually, to be fair.
Oh, mate.
You didn't?
No, I didn't, actually.
There you go.
No.
Does he come on the bench?
I didn't go into the YouTube highlights.
Maybe on the bench. I saw some fans saying about putting him at 13 ahead of Jesse Creel. I'm thinking he's never played 13, but then there was a picture of him playing 13, maybe once.
Yeah.
Against...
I think he played there for Montpellier, didn't he?
He played for South Africa once, I think. I don't. This was me basically just flicking, scrolling.
You ain't playing
You're
him
not
at
playing him at 13, no.
You're playing him at 10 or nowhere.
Bench.
What are you doing, Goody?
It's a big one, isn't it? Because the way they play now, the Springboks, they're bloody exciting to watch. They've gone from boring as anything when they beat the Lions and that stuff, to they're really exciting to watch now. They've got that, that forward power facet of the game and the kicking and all that stuff. But Willemse at fullback, Lebock, Obviously, got Cheslin Colby. These players are exciting to watch. Faf de Klerk, how good did his hair look as well at the start of the game? I felt like I needed to
I did smell it, but I asked them to cut that out of the video. Just a bit weird.
Oh, okay. Yeah, a bit weird post-match. It's a massive one, isn't it? Because, Jim's right, Handre's not played very much. You can rely on his goal kicking. Maybe he goes on the bench. And as soon as they miss one or two, and it's close, in a quarter-final, semi-final, potential final, you bring him on.
Which they've done, Goody, with Mornay Stain before, if you think of big games gone by. Goody, how funny was that when we did that live show and you're like, Mornay Stain, he's about 75. There's no chance he's coming on. And then... That's one of the funniest memes ever. Like, I know it's at your expense, but it was good.
No, I mean, I live and die by what I say, James, and I'm happy to take the brunt of things when I get it wrong, which isn't that often, but I'm joking. It'd be interesting. They have got that. It's a big question mark now because they've backed Manie a lot in the press, in everything, but you can't get away from the fact that they're missing kicks. And all they'll be thinking is, in a quarter-final against France, what happens when it's close? And maybe they'll be thinking against France, because France score a lot of tries. The way they attack, they score a lot of points. So maybe they're thinking we start with Manie because we need to play an expansive game at the right time for South Africa, and then bring Handre on as and when. And then if you play England in a semi-final, if we beat Fiji, which is a big if, because we know how good Fiji are, then it's maybe a different conversation to how you play against England. But against France in the quarter-final, which is who they're going to play, maybe you go Manie to start off with.
And Handre Pollard starts against Tonga, and maybe you give him like solid kicks just to really test him. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. So
Pollard comes on against Tonga. You're right. If he comes on against Tonga, nails 9 from 9.
Exactly. There is an argument then, isn't it? If he starts, he'll probably start.
What'd you do?
Yeah, interesting.
Who'd be a coach, eh?
Psychologically, do you think the Springboks are hurt now? Like, does that have some impact moving forward negatively for the Springboks and positively for Ireland, of course?
Shall I tell you honestly what Eben said to me? I didn't know whether to share it or not, but we're obviously best friends. I just said to him, physical game, and he's like, we'll get them again if they make it through. If they make it through. That's what he said. So, I mean, you talked about the world champions, right? We're talking about second best team, top 2 best teams in the world. So
I love that.
Yeah, it's the psychological part I don't think affects South Africa. I go back to my initial point. They get the kicks at goal. They get that line-out drive going at the end of the game, potentially a different referee. It looks very different, right? But Ireland have beaten them now. Ireland have beaten the All Blacks in the Test Series. Ireland are Grand Slam champions. That's the one. And they're not going to face them now until the final. I think playing France in the quarter-final, and we'll get on to France, with or without Dupont, are they the same team? There's a lot of stuff to happen to get to that point. But I think South Africa have this kind of arrogance, and rightly so, because they're world champions, that they can beat anyone.
I don't necessarily think it's arrogance, but I think it is. You talk about the psychological impact of stuff. Eben will be watching that tackle back of James Lowe where he gets lifted. Does that ever happen to you, Jim? Second row ball. Well, I mean, you probably dropped it.
No, I normally... my safety mechanism was just to hit the deck as quickly as I could. So look for grass. People would be screaming, look for grass, look for grass. But you're right, he's looking at that and he's embarrassed. Like, he'll feel embarrassed, he'll be raging, because that's the one image that's come out of that game.
And I think that's the South African mindset of, okay, listen, we've lost to Ireland and they took it to us physically. They normally beast teams, don't they, South Africa? But their kind of mindset and mentality is always, right, that's the challenge that's been set. Let's show them what South African rugby is all about. And they'll have no problem bouncing back from that. The South Africans, it'll actually motivate them more, I reckon. And they did it in the World Cup in 2019, didn't they? Obviously, a very similar game against the All Blacks in the group stage, in terms of the ferocity, the physicality, the intensity of everything that went on in that group game. And they come back and win the World Cup. So they're the only team to have ever won a World Cup after losing a group game. And so, I absolutely wouldn't write them off. And I actually think it will spur them on.
Jim, you mentioned you had a chat with Eben. Did you have a chat with any of the Irish players, the media team that you're near them?
Well, I was there with Dan Levy, actually, and it was so nice. Like, Dan Levy, what a legend. Matt, I tell you now, I know when we had him on the live show, we said that he speaks incredibly well. And he was like, oh, no, I'm not. I'm going to work in the city. He's doing some stuff in whiskey and stuff like that. Very, very smart lad. Like, understands the game, very close to the players. It was really nice seeing his interaction with the players as well. And I could hear some of the stuff they were saying. Like, James Lowe was chatting to both of us. He just said, like, they missed 11 points at goal. So they were... A lot of them were pretty understanding of the way that the game unfolded. They know that they need to be better. But yeah, there's a real buzz around this Irish team, isn't there? And again, now having won that game, and you can't underestimate the energy and the fans in the stadium, what that does. And Goody even talking about them winning the World Cup, like that blows up on social media. We're over in Dublin all the time. They love rugby, right? The enormity of them winning a World Cup cannot be underestimated. And you look across that team, there's no weak link now. The only weak link is, and we've said it before, is they're so reliant on Johnny. But he came through that game. Peter Steptoe was absolutely smoking him. And he was getting up and he was going again. So they keep him fit. There you go.
Crowley did well when he came on.
Well, you mentioned Crowley before. I like Crowley as well.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who did really well.
It's interesting.
I'll tell you who did really well when he came on. Finlay Bealham. Not just in the scrum. He was involved in a couple of the scrums that, again, could be marginal calls. They weren't marginal calls, but I'm not basing it on that. He is banging boys. He is banging them, getting off the line, chopping them, banging them. He was very good, because you think Ty Furlong the whole time, oh gosh, the Ireland, like the bomb squad, etc. He comes on and he was very good, very impressed.
Yeah.
Pod.
Rugby pod.